The first major of the Modern Warfare 2 season is in the books, guys, and I'll be honest, there was a lot of surprising placings. I don't think anyone would have thought that NYSL were going to be the champions, and I especially don't think that anyone thought NYSL was going to be going up against the Seattle Surge in the finals. But they were absolutely dominant the entire event. Both of those teams were unbelievable. But you know what time it is. We have to do the updated power ranking / tier list because the first LAN of the year is in the books. It's always way more important than those first set of online qualifier matches. So without further ado, we're going to be starting from the bottom and we're going to work our way up to the top. The worst team in the league right now, in my opinion, and the first team on this tier list is going to be in the D tier, is going to be the Los Angeles Guerrillas, RCD Spart, Neptune, and Huke. I have no idea why this team decided to stick together. Well, the core three, I should say. Or I don't know why the management thought it was a good idea. This core three didn't even make COD champs last year. Slasher left, he got a better opportunity, and you just decide, oh, we're gonna keep the main three and pick up RCDs, who is very similar to Slasher in terms of play style, but it was just one player swap, which doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. I just don't love the team. Doesn't make any sense to me. They looked horrible. There's really not anything good that I can say, unfortunately. And I guess that's why I have them at 12 of 12. And coming in number 11, also in the D tier, is going to be the London Royal Ravens. Now, this team looked really good the first couple matches, I guess, the online qualifiers. It looked solid. And going into the qualifiers, all the coaches, they had a coaches poll. They thought this team was by far the worst team when it came to practice, right? Practice. We're talking about practice. But they said that they looked horrible. And then in the qualifier, they looked pretty damn good, but they just fell flat on their face this entire event. Didn't look solid at all. This kind of happened last year, you know, where they performed online, got to LAN, very average. And it's tough because, you know, I love the underdogs. I love a good underdog story. I feel like that is what this team is, but online means nothing if you show up to the event and you can't execute at all. So they're in the D tier as well. And then coming in at number 10, but this is going to be the first team in the C tier. It's going to be the Boston Breach. Now, look, I was thinking about putting Boston in the D tier with the other two. It's unfortunate that Big Wake got sick. He wasn't feeling well, so they had to play with their challenger player in Beans. But they didn't have a good weekend at all. This is another team that looked pretty solid online in the qualifiers. But it's hard to kind of gauge where they're at because Big Wake is a very good player. I know Beans is a very good player, but having to switch even that one person out when you've gotten a lot of reps, right, with Awakening, it changes the whole dynamic, especially in Search and Destroy. So I feel like it was unfair. But I feel like for the most part, when Big Wake was playing, they looked average. But I'll give Boston the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to put them in D tier because, you know, they couldn't finish out the tournament with Awakening. But they're going to be joined by, and this is going to be shocking, I'm going to get a lot of hate on this, it's going to be Optic Gaming. Optic Gaming is number 9. They're also in the C tier, and they didn't even make it out of pool play. This Optic team, well, I mean, bro, they have all the talent in the world. Okay, I think Scump has looked great in the beginning of this game. They have Shotzi, they have Dashy, they have Illy. But my big issue with this team is they shouldn't have been a team. Simple as that. In the offseason, they try to make a roster change, right? They try to drop Dashy and Illy. Scump was, I think, on the verge of retiring from what I saw. And Shotzi basically said, hey, if you retire, I'm leaving Optic. I'm assuming he probably got an offer from Atlanta FaZe in the offseason because, you know, that is one of the few opportunities that I feel like someone like Shotzi would leave the Optic Gaming brand to play with, you know, because they would be dominant. But it basically tells you all you need to know, that Shotzi did not want to play with Dashy, really. And I don't know the exact reasons, whether it be an in-game or out-of-game issue. Yada, yada, yada. It doesn't matter. Scump doesn't retire. Everything kind of backpedals, and now Dashy and Illy are on the team. Now, they obviously are going to be feeling some type of way. I know it's a business, and it's easy to say, oh, you should be a grown man. Don't let that affect you. You know, go to work, put your head down, do the best you can. But you're going to feel kind of hurt. I think that if it's possible, when it comes to contracts and just in general with making team changes and making roster moves, which is very hard when you're actually in season, they need to make a change. And I think that they will end up trying to make a change if possible. They just don't look good. They're in the C tier. They're number 9. Now, moving on to the B tier, we're going to have 3 teams, guys. Coming in at number 8, it's going to be the Florida Mutineers. Coming in at number 7 is going to be the Vegas Legion, Las Vegas Legion. And number 6 is going to be the Minnesota Rocker. Now, just going to touch on Minnesota Rocker one first because they got 7/8. They looked great online in the qualifiers. Then they came to the major. They made it out, of course, but they lost in the first round to the Toronto Ultra 3-1 before falling to the lower bracket and losing 3-2 to the Las Vegas Legion, which no one thought that was going to happen. I didn't think that was going to happen. And it was pretty much one of the biggest upsets, I think, the entire weekend. And while I do think that they underperformed a lot, this Minnesota team still has a lot of potential. They still looked good. I don't think they necessarily looked horrible. They just couldn't close out that series versus Las Vegas Legion. And who knows what would have happened the rest of the tournament. But that's why I have them there. Now, this isn't just the LAN portion, okay? This does include the online qualifiers just a little bit, okay? Just to a certain degree. And they are currently sitting at number 5. Sitting in the 5th spot when it comes to CDL standings. I know there's a lot of season left, but that's where we have them. And when it comes to Las Vegas Legion, man, I'll be honest. This team has potential. I was pretty low on Prolu as a player. I think he's shown some flashes of great play throughout the entire weekend. I thought that this team was another underdog story. You know, I really want to see Clay do his thing. I want to see Temp do his thing, TJ do his thing. But they were very competitive in a lot of their series. They were very competitive whether or not they won or lost. Like they lost 3-1 in the first round to the Atlanta FaZe. They went down to Minnesota Rocker. They beat them 3-2. And then versus NYSL, they lost 3-1, but very close games. Very close games. Their control is really abysmal. That's something they need to work on. But I think that they have the potential to actually be a solid team. That's why we have them in the B tier. And I mean, they made it through their group to even get to the 18 bracket, which I thought that there was a chance that they wouldn't. You know, I thought they could have been one of the teams that wouldn't make it through, but they did. So I'm excited to see how they perform going back after this event. Right now, I think that they're middle of the pack, but they have a lot of potential. Like they look a hell of a lot more competitive than all the teams below them, without a doubt in my eyes. And then Florida Mutineers, this team is just like, they're so weird to me. This is like Florida last year. They look like an S tier team when they go up against Optic, and then versus everyone else, it's just super hit or miss. You know, like, I don't know. They went into the first round versus NYSL, lost 3-1, and then they dropped down. They got 3-0 body bagged by the Thieves. So they're just a hard team to really gauge in my eyes. You know, they are sitting in the 7th spot, tied with Las Vegas Legion in the CDL standings, but they're another team we're just going to have to see. We're going to have to wait and see. I'm not a huge fan of their team, but they've been pretty solid. And then we have the 8 tier. This is going to be 3 teams as well. First team, the 5th best team in Modern Warfare 2 right now, is going to be Los Angeles Thieves, in my opinion. They're a weird team right now because I think when you look at their teamwork, they have some of the best teamwork in the game because the fact that they're winning series or even losing series very closely. Prime example is that Toronto Ultra series that they lost for top 4, I believe. They're getting outslayed by a shit ton. Okay, this happened last year, kind of in the beginning to midway of Vanguard, and it's happening right now. They're obviously a very talented team. You know, they have some of the best players in the game. But I think their biggest strength also is their biggest weakness, where they have to learn the game, right? On a team level and an individual level. But I think they're almost being too selfless in a lot of situations, which is putting themselves on an individual level in a bad position to kind of help your teammate, right? Or for like a bait and switch or whatever the case may be. But that's a good problem to have. You know, you want to lose a series. If you're going to lose a series, you want to lose a series getting outslayed by a ton. Okay, especially when you have the history of being very talented on an individual level, because they're not going to be all dropping 0.8s, 0.9s. It's just not going to happen. They will figure it out. And I think when they do, when it does click on an individual level, they're going to be an S tier team. Moving on, number 4 is going to be the Toronto Ultra. I had these guys as a top 4 team going into this major, and nothing really changed. I thought they looked great. You know, Scrappy was an absolute beast, which what was nice to see. You know, I love him as a player. I love his attitude. He's cocky, but he backs his shit talk up, right? And Toronto beat Minnesota in the first round at the major. They lost to FaZe in the second round of winners. Dropped down, won a close series versus LAT. And then they lost game 5 to the Subliners. And the Subliners team went on to win the event. But this Toronto team looks solid. I think they have some issues when it comes to certain maps, but every team does. They look great. They looked great in the qualifiers. And I mean, you know, they played pretty damn well. They got top 4 at this major. So I think the 4th spot is basically theirs at this point. And then the third team is going to be the Atlanta FaZe. They obviously placed 3rd at the major, but I do think they are in the A tier. I don't think they are in the S tier. This team is weird, man, because when you look on paper, you're expecting them to be filthy. And while they are a very good team, this major, they were winning their S&Ds, which is great, but their respawn just looked very inconsistent to me. The players were very inconsistent besides Celium, which shouldn't be a surprise there. I mean, the guy, I don't know, last time I saw him go negative. They were very inconsistent in respawns. And I think that is the reason why they didn't make it further or, you know, win the event. But overall, they've been great. I think they started out slow in the online qualifiers. They looked a lot better at the major. Still need to figure some stuff out, but I think they will. And then lastly, guys, we have the S tier. It's going to be the 2 teams in the final. It's obviously Seattle Surge number 2, NYSL number 1. Really not much to talk on just because both of these teams didn't look that good online, which is what I talked about. It's like they didn't look great. But I'll just read you NYSL. They made it through pool play. Winners round 1, they go up against Florida Muniers, win 3-1. Winners round 2, they actually lose 3-1 to Seattle Surge. Okay. They fall down. They beat Legion 3-1. And they beat Toronto 3-2 in a close series. And they beat Atlanta FaZe to make it to the finals 3-1. Before winning 4-1, they really caught fire in the losers bracket, beating the Seattle Surge to take home the championship. And Seattle's journey looked pretty damn good as well. They beat Thieves in the first round. They beat NYSL in the second round. And then they beat FaZe in the winners finals 3-2. So these teams, they looked so much better, especially NYSL on LAN. Now, it is the first event. The first event is all about adaptability. Okay, because you don't know what guns or what attachments may be different when it comes to LAN, right? Guns are going to get better on LAN. Some guns are going to get worse on LAN. Some attachments might be better. Especially in this game, there's so many damn attachments. It could take a while, and you have to be able to adapt. And normally the team that wins the first event of the year is just the best at adapting throughout the course of the weekend, which I think NYSL was. They looked great. The pace they played at was way faster than I think every other team. Them in Seattle, both. It's tough because I don't know if this is a one-hit wonder thing or both of these teams are going to be consistently dominant throughout the year, you know, consistently being contenders. We just have to wait and see. Hopefully this game is more consistent than Vanguard, which I think it will be. But there's a lot of game left in the season. It's simple as that. So we just have to wait and see. That is the tier list, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, in the comment section below, give me your tier list or what you would change from mine, at least. I'm interested to see your guys' thoughts. As always, I appreciate y'all. I'm going to see y'all when I see y'all.